Pitt also has seen Rick Lashley's offense. I mean, the guy knows talent and where to put it. He's got the running back. Bernard Smith was a wide receiver at Miami, turns him into a running back, and this guy's averaging like 8 yards a carry. He's got 745 yards this year. And he catches the ball in the backfield because he's a wide receiver. So he basically found him a Debo Samuel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beardzone Sports Talk. My name is David. I got Carlos. I got Scooter. We are back from the dead last week. Sorry, guys, we missed last week, but we're moving forward, and we are excited because we got some games to talk about this coming Saturday in the college football world. But before we get into all of that, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because that is the best way to continue to support us as we grow this college season. Gentlemen, we have a big game on the ticket this Saturday, and I'm excited to just dive right into this game. We got Ohio State versus Penn State. Who would have thought that in Week 10 this was going to be a game to watch as far as national rankings? We got number 2 versus number 3. Both teams, obviously they're doing really good. Now there are some questionable, wins as of late. Ohio State sneaks a win last week against Nebraska. Obviously, not a great look for them. Penn State is I have to correct myself. Ohio State did have that one loss earlier this year, but Penn State is currently 7-0. Penn State's number 3. Ohio State's number 4. But this is going to be a game to watch, gentlemen, and it's going to be an interesting game. But who do you guys have? It's at Penn State too. Ohio State's going into a hostile environment. Could we see Ohio State Buckeyes get knocked off this Saturday, or was this organization built for this kind of a game?
I hope they lose. Being a Miami fan, I don't care. They can lose every week. It would make me happy. It's going to be interesting because you got two good defenses. I thought by now Penn State would have blew a game. They usually they're good for it, but they seem to be surviving. They survived the USC game, that one in overtime, and they just kind of been rolling. But the defense it's really good. We got 2 top 5 defenses going at it. I'm just more like going into man on the road, and Jason Day needs this win, I think, badly for the program. He's getting a year, he's kind of getting that Michigan scapegoat. He doesn't have to worry about Michigan this year. But, man, he needs to win. And losing to Oregon the way they did, and he got out. I don't know if he got out coached at the end of the game with the move of putting the 12th man on the field, but I don't know how you stop that. But that's a great coaching call, and he changed the rule book. I don't know. It's going to be a tough one for them. I think Ohio State beats them. Penn State, they always got to lose a game. So if it's not here, then it'll probably be Purdue down the road or something. But Ohio State needs this bad. I'm wondering if he's on the hot seat. If he loses 2 games this year, this is a team that's built for to win national championships. Is this guy going to be looking for a new job next week? We looking at a possible new head coach in Ohio State next year?
I honestly would love to see Ohio State lose for the remainder of the season. But we know that's not possible. Yes, they're going into Penn State. My question for both of them, are they legit? You had Penn State, who kind of struggled against USC a few weeks ago, and then eventually squeaked the win out. And they just look sloppy overall in the first half and then into the third quarter. You got Ohio State, who just got out-coached by Dan Lanning. Excellent move. I don't care. OSU can cry all they want. They shouldn't rewrite the rule books. It's part of the game, man. How about just be a little smarter? Ryan Day also probably hasn't lost to Penn State yet. So there's that. If he loses to Penn State, does it kind of question his longevity at Ohio State? Yeah, kinda. Eh, but you're not beaten. You're not going to the Big Ten championship at that point again. And then for Penn State, Franklin, he's been there for a minute too, and he hasn't been to a Big Ten championship at all. So Michigan's fell off the champion route very hard, so that kind of opened the door. But then you got Oregon, who just kicked everyone in the mouth. Both of these teams are in their tested territory for the season. I think Penn State rocks the play action a little bit better. Ohio State seems to have the better talent recruit-wise, and their freshman wide receiver, that kid is ridiculous. Howard is a pretty consistent guy behind center. Not very many turnovers. Their run game is always solid at Ohio State, but then again, so is Penn State. So I don't know if this is a high-scoring game per se, but keep in mind, you still got the Michigan-Ohio State game. I know Michigan's a complete joke right now, but things can change in a few weeks, and that's always a contested game, regardless of the win-loss record. And in this entire scenario, you've still got Ohio State to play Indiana, who's putting up 50 points a game against everybody, and no one saw them coming. Kudos to their coach. But as far as the Ohio State-Penn State game, man, in Happy Valley, I don't know if this is the whiteout game. I can't remember. But it's hard.
I think it's the whiteout.
And that's Man, I would not want to be.
I don't think so because it's at 12 o'clock. Isn't whiteout game in the night?
Yeah. It is. It's historically
this is a
game.
noon game. There's
this
no way.
A noon game.
Are you kidding me?
No.
What are they? 3 versus 4 at noon? Ridiculous scheduling. Ridiculous. That is.
I don't think
if you're up
anyone
for day
thought
drinking,
Penn State was going to be 3 in week 10.
Yeah, but still, like they make these only a couple weeks out. This time frame isn't made at the beginning of the year. That's ridiculous. I mean, the good thing for Penn State, this is their last like really tough game. So if they win this, they could be I don't want to say cruise control by any means, but they don't have like a Indiana or the big rivalry game still left, so they can get into the Big Ten championship quick.
Minnesota has been coming on hot a little bit later now, and I think they might ruffle some feathers. But like you said, their schedule for Penn State looks kind of easy. In the Big Ten right now, if you want to make a hard argument, going undefeated, and then losing in your championship is still better than losing right now. So, obviously, if Ohio State loses, they're done. Let's be real. But if Penn State loses, they could potentially still be in the Big Ten championship unless Ohio State loses to Indiana and Indiana goes undefeated and kind of shapes things up again. We've already talked about the chaos this season, and this game is just running with it 100%.
Wouldn't that be crazy to see a Big Ten championship game is Oregon, who was not even in the conference, and Indiana?
Let's do it.
Oregon and Indiana. If somebody had said, hey, I'll give you 10,000 to 1 odds that Indiana and Oregon will play for the Big Ten, you'd been like, get out of here, I'll keep my dollar.
Yeah.
Like, that is nuts.
It's been a wild season. I mean, it really has been. A couple of things to note for this game. Left tackle Zen Mikowski, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, for Ohio State, injured, doesn't really look all that great. And then also game time decision looks like that's what it's going to come down to for Drew Aller, the quarterback for Penn State. Now, is he going to play? Most likely. But could be something to kind of keep an eye on. Carlos, you mentioned earlier, both of these defenses are nasty. I mean, they're good defenses. And so if Ohio State is weakened at offensive line, I mean, we could really see Penn State eat up this game on Saturday. So it should be a game to watch. Definitely circle it on your calendars. Let's move on to another game. Let's shift to the ACC, because this is a game that is another one where it's like, how are we having this conversation? But Pitt SMU, 18-20, both of them undefeated in their conference. Both of them, SMU does have the one loss, but they're both defeated or undefeated in the conference. It's an ACC battle, and this should be a good game to watch. What do you guys want to see out of this game?
Hey, lose. make the ACC round out a little bit.
If you could have all ACC teams lose outside of Miami, I think you'd just be happy in general, right?
I'd be okay with it. I mean, I'll figure out how to sleep at night, but I'll figure it out.
All right.
It's crazy, dude. That both Pitt and SMU basically score 40 or more points in each game. Minus, I think Pitt scored barely 17 against Cal, and everyone knows the Cal versus Miami game. And Carlos, I know you don't want to relive that, but which team is more legit? I think the loss to the number 9 BYU at SMU, their season looks a little bit more legit. Pittsburgh really hasn't played anyone, and their closest game was, I think it was like West Virginia, and then it was Cal. Like, West Virginia's kind of fallen off the map a little bit, and it's Cal. Come on. This is the biggest test moving forward for them. Clemson does run into Pittsburgh, I think 3 weeks from now. That's going to be another tested game. Clemson kind of has the harder road getting to the ACC championship game. But whose high-powered offense succeeds here? Like, if you struggled against Cal to score more than 20 points when the rest of the teams have been 30, 40, 50, I think 70, there's a 70 game in there. Same thing with SMU. SMU still scored a ton of points on BYU as well. So are we going to see another high-powered 3-point game here where we're going down to another Hail Mary, Carlos? Or are we going into overtime, Carlos? Are we going to have another Miami heart attack as we watch Pittsburgh and SMU? Maybe. Now, I know we were talking beforehand. In the quarterback for SMU is listed as questionable, but I would argue he plays this game. Just give the dude some, adrenaline shots and just say, hey, we need to win this game in order to, again, have a really weird scenario for another newbie to the conference, right? SMU could potentially go to the ACC championship game if everything kind of shuffles around. Like, this is wild scenarios that even we're just 2 games into this.
The good thing I feel like with the coach of SMU, Rick Lashley, he was the OC at Miami, and he did very well against. He's a good offensive mind and play caller, so he's got experience in the ACC already. So that is helping him out. He's seen these teams already, so he's been he was there a couple of years. So I think he gets the advantage here, but Pitt also has seen Rick Lashley's offense. I mean, it's the guy knows talent and where to put it. He's got the running back. Bernard Smith was a wide receiver at Miami, turns him into a running back, and this guy's averaging like 8 yards a carry. He's got 745 yards this year. And he catches the ball in the backfield because he's a wide receiver. So he basically found him a Deebo Samuel, and I think SMU pulls this one out. I feel like he's got enough of the experience in the ACC, and man, offense everywhere he's gone, he's put up points. I mean, it's not even when he was with Miami. DeMarcus Van Dyke, who is falling off the map, was having the guy. He had a great season under Lashley. He was this guy the next year under Lashley is going to be a Heisman contender, and then I don't know what happened to him after that, but it's going to be a good game. SMU's better at running the ball than Pitt. We're going to see, man. I'm pulling for SMU for sure. Just as a Miami fan, I don't want to see 3 undefeated ACC teams at the end.
Yeah. Well, SMU does have an easier schedule on their way out. So I think they have Virginia, they have Cal after this, and then they have Boston College, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, Cal's are going to be their toughest game, just because Cal's defense is pretty good.
Right. So, but SMU is favored by 7.5 points right now. So I mean, take that as you will. I like SMU in this one. I looking at everything, the Cal game is what I look at. I mean, and I get it. Miami struggled against Cal, right? But Miami's been struggling against everyone. I think, Carlos, what you say about Miami, about how they play to the level of their opponent, I think that's very true. I mean, we didn't see that so much at the beginning of the year. They were really kind of just putting their foot on the throats and, keeping them down. But as of late, outside of last week, but I mean, it was Florida State. Come on, who cares? Miami's been in close games, and we might see another close game with Duke. I know there's a little bit of history with that team and their head coach and everything else like that with Miami. So, but I like SMU in this one. I'm not a bit great year for Pitt, but I think it's going to come to a screeching halt this Saturday against SMU. Let's go to a team who is ranked number 1 in the nation, and they are going to be facing the defending national champions in the Michigan Wolverines. But holy crap, this Michigan team is definitely not the same team as they were last year. Obviously, they've lost a lot of people this year, including their head coach, JJ McCarthy, so many other pieces of that defense and of that offense that was part of that natty run last year. But Oregon is firing on all cylinders. They are a fun team to watch. And I have one question for you. This isn't so much as should be a good game, but does Michigan have any chance at all? Any, barring any crazy injuries or anything else like that. Does Michigan a fair shot? Do they even have a chance against this Oregon Duck team right now? And does anybody, are they truly the number 1 team in college football?
This is a scary team. Yeah, they're a scary team. I got to give it to Dan Landing. He took Pac-10 has always been known for their speed, but never for like their toughness. And he came to the Big Ten prepared. That is a tough team. That Jordan James at running back, that guy runs. He's pissed off at something. I don't know what it is. But when he runs, he's mad. Mm-hmm. The O-line is still agile, but man, they're bigger. The D-line's big. Like the guy, he's a great coach, man. He knew coming to the Big Ten they had to make some changes and get bigger, but stay fast. And man, he's done it. I think it's Dan Gabriel is doing his thing too. But Gabriel's known to throw that pick, like that untimely pick. So, but
that's the thing
that
I was going to say about
the problem is I think Michigan just runs Wildcat all day now. I don't even think they're just like forget the quarterback.
Who's playing quarterback?
Yeah, like
again, we're talking about the champ who fell off the map. Like they lost their coach. They lost like every star athlete that they had to the draft. Good for their program building, but NIL shook everything else to the wind. Oregon steals everybody because, let's be real, they always had money and they were always paying somebody. Thank you, Nike, for the cool uniforms for like the past 20 years. But Dan Lanning is an absolute stellar coach. He has figured out how to take Oregon's spread offense, make it a run offense as well, drive it down the field, grind it, everything in between. Their defense is pretty locked down. But as we saw, they kind of shut down Ohio State when they had to. Now, Michigan still has talent. Let's not discount them at all. They just don't really know who their leader is behind center. They just don't know. And I think that's because of the nuance to the environment, the coaching, and everyone else that came into their program. Oregon is undoubtedly number 1. If Texas didn't lose, then there'd be a different conversation. But now that you got Dylan Gabriel, who's played in the American Conference and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the SEC and Big 12, he's played in like every conference now if you look at the teams he's played for, and he's now second in overall yardage for NCAA. If he didn't have the interceptions, like Carlos was saying, he would be up there with Cam Ward in the Heisman conversation. I think that conversation gets a little bit stronger if he has an excellent game here against Michigan, no less in Ann Arbor. So I don't know how Oregon loses at all moving forward. Even in the Big Ten championship game, I don't, depending on if they're playing Ohio State again or they're playing Indiana, I don't even know if they lose that. Even if Indiana goes undefeated and loses to Oregon in the Big Ten championship, like we're doing this hypothetical here, I think you still include Indiana. Like, I don't know how Oregon loses at all until we get to the playoff and we see how things have shaped with not just the conference games, but the championship and rivalry games. And not only that, but the holidays. The holiday season definitely has an effect on players in how they play in their offseason, more or less. Oregon, I think, wins handedly here, and it's really weird to say for Michigan and at home. You know?
Yeah. Well, I don't think, I mean, I think actually the books are being gracious to Michigan, and the spread is 14.5 points. I think that's undershooting it by a large margin. If they were favored by 30 points, I would feel like that would be more like, more realistic. But Michigan has a tough road. They have Oregon this week. They have Indiana next week. They have Northwestern, which, I mean, hopefully they should beat Northwestern. But then they finish it off with the OSU game. And there ain't no way that Ohio State's going to lose to this Michigan team.
Are they a 5-7 team?
They are a 5 or a 6-6 team. 100%.
They're a 6-6 team. They'll get to like the very first bowl game of the year, but there's no way they cannot lose to Michigan this year. If Ohio State's coach loses to Michigan this year, he's out. He is out. He has never beat them. He is out. I can guarantee it, after the game, he won't even make the press conference. They'll just be like, "Yeah, we fired him. There's a bag of money for his buyout. He's done." Like, bowl game, forget it. Well, the kids coach themselves, but man,
Meanwhile, though, Oregon, the rest of their schedule, man, is actually Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, Washington. I mean, you want to talk about, you're looking at a team that's going to most likely going to go undefeated this year. And, man, they're good. The only thing that I am hesitant about is it's because of Dylan Gabriel. The guy has been playing good, and I don't want to take that away from him. But there's been so many games that I watched this year that he has thrown very bad interceptions in scoring range. We're not talking when, they're trying to push the ball down the field. I'm talking about when they're in within the 20-yard line in that red zone, and he's thrown interceptions. You've gotten away with it, but you're not going to get away with that when you start playing up against, big-time schools with big-time defenses and offenses. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this Oregon team. I'm rooting for them. Scooter, you nailed it on the head, man. I freaking love their uniforms. I don't think that there's a uniform that they have I don't like. So, I mean, shout out to Nike. Thank you for that. So, gentlemen, let's go to one last game. And it almost seems like we're just kind of doing these guys a favor, although we don't owe anybody anything because we're nobodies over here. But, I mean, you have to kind of mention this game just simply because it's a classic. But we got the Florida Gators and the Georgia Bulldogs going at it. Georgia Bulldogs, they've not had the year that they were hoping for. I mean, granted, they're 6-1. They're still sitting at number 2 in the nation. So they had a bye week last week. So they were able to kind of regroup themselves. Florida Gators, they're coming on a little bit. They're now 4-3. But does the Gators, is this a game where the Gators can pull off an upset, or is Georgia just going to absolutely dominate them?
If Carson Beck throws 3 more interceptions in a game, I'm going to have like a heart attack. Like, dude, come on. You were like the best quarterback going into this scenario with the draft and everything, and you just hand the ball off basically to the opposing team basically multiple weeks in a row, and your defense bails you out. It's like we're watching the college version of Patrick Mahomes going on right now for the Bulldogs. Dude, the defense for Georgia is no joke. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you're recruiting again. Don't worry about it. But if you're UF,
Seriously.
you have a very good defense as well, but you haven't really beat anyone with a name at all or ranked. So UF is kind of figuring out the dual quarterback scenario of old, like we saw with Chris Leaf and Tim Tebow, but it's definitely not the same scenario. Lagway, I think, is their future for sure. Mertz is like on his 7th or 10th year in the college. I don't know. But he's very injury prone, obviously, with his concussions and his shoulder and everything else. But he hasn't been able to move the ball consistently down the field and score touchdowns, not field goals. Like, every time UF has consistently put down like 3 touchdowns, they're probably going to win. You're not going to be able to get away with that with Georgia. Georgia just needs to stop turning the damn ball over and just giving games away and somehow squeaking one out. The Bulldogs, I think this is going to be, if you're a Florida fan, just start drinking in the morning so that you understand that you're just not going to be sober for the foreseeable future so you can take the loss appropriately. If you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, you might want to drink early because Carson Beck has thrown at least 6 interceptions in the last 2 games in the first half. So there's that. If you're Kirby Smart, you might want to take some Xanax and chill out for a while because you are that 99.9% elevation level for blood pressure. I don't know if anyone's been watching these games. Kirby Smart, it's been absolute comedy on the sideline, just losing his marbles, running over players and refs, and somehow still not getting flags or fines. Speculation, controversy, got it. I don't know how this is a game. It's a rivalry. But I don't know if anyone's seen a bulldog eat an alligator, but that's basically what's going to happen during this game.
This is going to be the best game in Jacksonville all year.
I was waiting for
the
that.
largest outdoor cocktail party and the best game in Jacksonville you will see this year.
Damn.
I'm telling you. Florida played their best game they've played all year. Lagway had an interception, but he threw for a lot of they had some big plays. In Kentucky will fight you, man. They put up a good fight against everybody. There's no chance of them winning. But, Beck, I'd like to see more out of Beck. He has thrown 8 interceptions this year. He has I don't know what's going on with him in the first half of games. And the game they lost, I really felt like they should have beat Alabama. And I think he just blew it at the end again. But Georgia, to me, is the only team that I can see, and it pains me to say this, that I think can give Oregon and match up well with them. But Beck cannot turn the ball over like he's doing in the first half. I mean, after so long, I mean, I don't know, but they're going to be a team that's going to rival Oregon at the end here. I think they're still that good, and they got a chip on their shoulder. Kirby Smart was pissed at the end of the Texas game. He's like, they tried to cheat us. The refs, like he just blasted the refs and said, "You guys try to cheat us, and we're not. We're in Texas. I get it. We're in Austin. But you guys try to cheat us, and we still beat you." So, hey, that team's got. I don't think he lets them let up. I just foresee them. Man, I feel sorry for Florida. I got a feeling they're just going to put the hurt on them. Like, the only chance Florida has is Lagway plays. Yeah, Lagway has to play more. He can move. He's mobile. Mertz is not. Mertz is not mobile. He's like the new college Dan Marino. But I mean, their only shot is Lagway, and hopefully that they break some plays, and Beck has that the first half he's been having, throwing a couple picks in the first half. But yeah, man. But I mean, it's the largest. You don't go for the game anymore. You just go for the tailgate. It is by far one of the best tailgating games of all of sports, man. And like I say, it'll be the best game in Jacksonville all year.
I don't think anybody can argue with that, Carlos. I really, really don't. So we're going to go ahead and end on that note because, yeah, you know what? We're just going to hit on the eye. All you Jacksonville fans out there, this is the best that it's going to get, so soak it up this weekend. Because
unless you have tickets for London, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that team should just go to London at this point. I don't know. We're going to get into the NFL talk, though, here on Friday. So be sure to tune in on Friday. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The NFL football episode is going to be coming at you. We appreciate you guys rocking with us on our college episode every Wednesday, 9 a.m. Don't want to miss this. So go ahead, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, so then that way you can have you just don't want to miss an episode, because as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, especially with these two guys talking college football, there's bound to be some serious arguments that are going to break off. And it should be a good one. So, but follow us on all of our social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We will see you next Wednesday.
Beardzone out.